Good evening, Professor. This is my individual project costing for a single plate and one dish of a famous Peruvian dish, lomo saltado. It's very common in Peruvian restaurants. For the sake of this project, I'm only going to focus on a restaurant that does only lomo saltados. It doesn't do anything else, just to keep it simplified, so there's no 50, 20 different dishes that they work on. The ingredients are a mix of Chinese, Peruvian food, and the cost per unit was determined by breaking down the ingredients, the amount of direct labor hours as well as the indirect labor hours, the amount of time needed to cook the mini dishes, and the total of dishes calculated that would be served in 1 year. So the sales price per unit is $40. This is with a markup of 18.92, and the total cost per unit before the markup is $32.43. Variable costs here are calculated by the ingredients, the direct labor, which is mainly the cooks, the indirect labor, which is the servers. In this case, because it's a small restaurant, just one server. The amount of supplies used, the utilities paid, and the amount of units produced. Now, all these numbers have been calculated of how much is used in a day, multiplied by 288 working days. And it comes out to a total variable cost of $24.69. Then here's the contribution margin, which was calculated by subtracting the variable costs per unit out of the sales price, which comes out to $15.31. That number gets divided by the sales price, and that's how we get our contribution margin ratio. Then the break-even point in units will be 7,531. That's with our fixed yearly costs of $115,300, and the break-even sales would come up to $301,202. Cover the profit at the break-even units. It is okay by multiplying the number of units expected to be sold in the year by the contribution margin, which was $15.31. That's how I came up with the target level sales needed for the target profit of $316,442. Here's the contribution margin income statement. Selling 28,200 units at $40, we come out with about $1,128,000. Then subtracting the variable cost, we come out with a contribution margin, and subtracting the fixed cost from contribution margin gives us a net income of $316,442. The leverage factor was used pretty much creating, it doesn't say here on the question, but this was using the break-even numbers. I had to pretty much create a contribution margin income statement using the numbers for the break-even point, and it came out to a leverage factor of 0.25. Now multiplying this by 50%, which is the increase in sales, gave us a 3.75 increase in sales, which we've multiplied the net income of the break-even point, which is $40,005, times the 3.75 increase, which is $1,519, comes out to a total of $41,505 with 19 cents. then the margin of safety. I'm not sure how this ties up. Apologize about that. But these are following instructions. These are the numbers I came up with. And the lessons I learned from this class as well as from this project is how important being able to calculate variable costs, fixed costs, and the overhead are for a business, not just in the sense of when it comes to creating a business or a startup, but I recently was part of a meeting where, as a third-party logistics, we have a client that mainly rents our warehouse, rents our workforce, and they're trying to see if they can come up with a special project that's going to require some extra cash, extra money from them. So in the meeting, they came up with the basic variable cost, the fixed cost, the overhead, and they came with a preliminary charge that they were going to offer to our client to see if they wanted to move on. For this, I know they didn't look too much into the break-even point because the markup itself for the cost of of what we're going to charge them was way beyond the break-even point, so they didn't even look at it too much. But that was a perfect example of how this information that I worked on this project would be used for, in the case of creating an offer to come up with a project or even a startup. So pretty helpful. I really appreciate the help, and happy holidays.